Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Great to have you with us on the show today. Congratulations on your weight loss, by the way. I guess you're down 5 pounds since the haircut.
No, at least.
Just... I'll say this, at least it's a Nike jacket.
I'll tell you. Yeah, I do favor, even though lately I haven't, I do favor Nike. I've always favored Nike. That includes when Reebok and Adidas were not one. They were two.
Well, what's interesting, I mean, you know who's three is, of course, Under Armour. Under Armour, which has deals with, I think they have Notre Dame now.
Yeah.
They got into that mess with UCLA where they had to settle. And, of course, he is a Maryland graduate, and so Maryland has a lot of different – but their stock is in the single digits right now. It's like $7 a share.
Yeah. You talk about the teams. They've got deals individually with Curry, Brady, Bryce Harper, The Rock.
Yeah.
You know, these are guys that are
they do,
incredible
but the stock is nothing.
Yeah.
It is $7 a share. And
that's what's so surprising about it.
Okay, I'd say 3 years ago, the valuation was Nike was up over 100. Adidas was right behind it, not that far, and Under Armour had fallen to like 17 or 18. It's even lower now.
Well,
all right, but enough of the stock report.
Yeah, that's the most I've gotten in a while.
Now, these are the guys, by the way, that will go through senior night for Penn State basketball on Sunday night. Andy Christos, Puff Johnson, Raquandis Mitchell, Ace Baldwin, Qudus Wahab, Dan Conlon, and Leo O'Boyle. All right, now, just because you go through senior night doesn't mean you're leaving.
Right.
Okay? As we pointed out in football many times. So they're being honored because they are academically seniors. All right. After that, we'll see what everybody decides what they want to do. All right. And they'll play Maryland, and we will get to that later in the week. The big story of the day in college is what Dartmouth has done. And Dartmouth, the Dartmouth men's basketball team, which averages 675 fans a game, although maybe that went up last night.
Might have gone to 677.
Okay. Well, I don't know. It was senior night last night.
Yeah.
I wonder how warmly they were greeted when they came out, because this is a bold move by a bad basketball team.
I agree.
I'm sorry. They are a bad basketball team.
I agree on both accounts.
All right. The quotes were like, I'm sitting like going, you've won 5 games. But they did win. Wait, make it 6. They beat Dartmouth last night. Rallied in the second half and won 76-69. You've got to be kidding me. Way to go. So let's look here. Men's basketball. Let's just see. They were at 675 fans per game going in. Okay? Come from behind. What a great night for the Big Green.
Knocked Harvard all the way down to 500.
Yeah. Right. Look, I just want the stats. I really don't care about how your season's gone. And based on how your season has gone, there's a lot of people in America. There are people in Hanover that don't care how your season's gone.
Jay Fiedler's saying this was my alma mater.
I'm trying to think. There was a point where there was was it a wide receiver quarterback combination? Their dads were NFL, I think, players many years ago.
I think you're right, and I can't think of what their names are.
Yeah. But yeah, that's quick links. Let's see. I just want to know what the average attendance for Dartmouth happens to be. Come on, let's go. Come on, you're killing me. Big Green hosts now. Big Green end season.
I can't believe they'd wrap up a season like that. That's
okay. Dartmouth held Harvard to 4 points over the final 9 minutes. Wow.
there. It is.
Okay.
That Big Green looked like Mean Joe Green down the stretch.
How about that? That is something else. In the end, the Big Green held Harvard at his 4 points in the final 9:21. For the game, Dartmouth shot 50% from the floor. With the win, Dartmouth finishes the season, so they don't go to the Ivy League tournament, at 6-21, 2-12 in the Ivy League. That snapped, by the way, a 9-game losing streak. Yeah, we're unionizing. Yeah, and and if you read the story, they talk about the unionization story.
Yeah.
About something about profits. I go, profits? Profits? Are you kidding me? You don't make any profits?
They went from 669 to 677 fans. That's a big profit. Forget about the facility you're
profits.
Paying. Forget about the employees and facilities you're paying and a lot of other things. That's 600 and whatever you drew is, my goodness.
675 a game. I mean, wow. I mean, people are not marching to get season tickets.
I don't think so. I don't think the phones are ringing off the hook.
So there are a couple things that come with this. Okay? And let's get into it. The vote to unionize. So let's start with this. Unintended consequences. If you are considered to be classified as an employee, which is what they're looking to be, correct?
Yeah.
Mid-season, can they fire you?
Yeah, I would think you can judge people based on performance if they're an employee. Absolutely. I can't see why not. And that's a good question. It's a great question.
I mean, I'm talking about these are unintended consequences.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? You're in the work world.
Yeah.
If you are underperforming, can they fire you?
Can they fire you or give you a pay cut or something? Yeah. I wouldn't see why not. Absolutely.
Now, Dartmouth, I don't know how they're going to handle this. This is people talk about this is a groundbreaking. Yes and no. Okay. To me, the groundbreaking one is the one in Southern California.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the groundbreaking one. This one is a first, but not the groundbreaker. Why? The National Labor Relations Board only has sway over private entities. Schools such as Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, right, Georgia, are public institutions, thus considered to be, quote, because they get money from the government entities. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm just talking about the classification on labor. And I'll give you an example. I mean, everybody knows I work at Penn State. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm in the state retirement system. Just to give you, right? Because that's the one I chose to be in.
Yep, that includes, I think, as far as I know, that includes union employees there too.
Oh, yeah. State
It
includes union employees, right. But again, see the designation, state, government.
As opposed to, Mm-hmm.
So the Dartmouth one does not have sway when it comes to 16 of the 18 Big Ten schools. Okay, it would have sway over what happens at Northwestern and USC if they wanted to unionize. right? They're private institutions.
Yep.
As you pointed out to me yesterday, I think I brought up Miami. You then confirmed that Miami was one. Was it you? It may have been somebody else. I had to point out to you. It couldn't have been you because I would have to point out to you Miami's in Florida. The one way down south.
The one way down south where they flash this every 4 seconds.
I mean, Duke's a private institution.
Duke's definitely private.
Miami is a private institution. People don't realize that. USC is, they're a Notre Dame and so forth. All the Ivy League schools are. The players for Dartmouth, it was a 13-2 vote, said they want to now see if they can convince the other Ivy League schools to do the same and follow suit. And they say in following suit, they can then put together an Ivy League Players Association. All right. Now, why is the California one potentially groundbreaking as opposed to Dartmouth? Because the one in California, where the first ruling on that will be sometime in late April, May, no later than the end of June. Okay?
Yeah.
So so from mid-April till about the end of June, look for this ruling to come out. Because they have sued, the plaintiff has made the point about USC, okay, fine, private institution, but then conference and the NCAA, they included all three. Conferences and the NCAA are private entities. Oh. Now, I may not be a lawyer, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn.
Express,
no less.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Way to go. But, so that's the one to look at. Dartmouth tells you that it can happen. Mm-hmm. But Dartmouth, the decision on Dartmouth has nothing to do with the vast majority of student athletes at universities across the country, because it is a private institution. All right, so it doesn't directly affect college athletic programs. Remember, the National Labor Relations Board has sway when it comes to private companies, not state universities. Okay? Now, the Service Employees International Union can now bargain on their behalf. They represent nearly 2 million employees in 100 occupations. So the team is going to present a list of demands. A, they want a student wage. More medical coverage. More medical coverage?
What the? Yeah, this sounds like...
That one always gets me. And better treatment in a variety of team-related issues.
Man.
All right.
That's baffling.
Okay. You're 6 and 21. Right? So
I don't understand.
I'm going to tell you a story. I am not going to mention the name of the player because the name of the player is actually relatively well known. Okay?
If he wanted more medical coverage, he's already behind the eight ball.
Speedy Morris. The legendary Speedy Morris, who coached both men's and women's basketball.
I remember this.
Okay? Is coaching the women's team. Mm-hmm. Calls a timeout. Player's not playing well. Absolutely one of his better players, maybe his best player.
Yeah.
And she's crying.
Yeah, if you Google this, you will know the name. Mark my words.
And he looks at her and says, "You're crying. You're crying?" He says, "The way you're playing, I should be crying." All right. You're 6-21. You just broke a 9-game losing streak, right? And you want better conditions? Here's one for you. You should start winning and give me better conditions. I mean, really?
Man.
Woo! Here's one for you. You're crying? I should be crying. I got to watch you every day in practice. I got to watch you in games all the time.
Speedy Morris could have used about 27 analogies to that at all, and it would have been.
No, I've got way more stories.
Man. Oh, Speedy.
I have way more stories.
The only guy that's ever coached a half in his underwear.
I have way more stories.
He ripped his pants. I'll never forget that night. Never forget that night.
So they asked Gabe Feldman, a Tulane sports law professor and an expert on NCAA matters. We'll take the last part with a grain of salt. This has been, experts on legal matters are not on a roll of late.
No. Especially if you are legally.
Okay, yep. Not on a roll, but we'll still at least put it under consideration. He tells Yahoo Sports and Ross Dellinger, if the NLRB determines Dartmouth basketball players are employees, then there is a very strong argument that all private school D1 athletes are employees, including walk-ons. That goes back to the point I made, that Miami, USC, Notre Dame, Northwestern, all right? The question would be, does the NLRB determine that all of athletes, public schools as well, are employees? Now they go into the Northwestern thing, and of course there's always just the usual, okay. Northwestern players held a union election. The results were never made public. My understanding is the vote was 3 to 4 to 1 against. I think they only got 15 of the players to vote yes. All right, this is years ago. These are from people I know, and it's multi-sourced. Okay, I multi-sourced it. Okay. Tides, though, have turned within college athletics. Really, hadn't noticed. Dartmouth is appealing the decision to the NLRB National Board in Washington. Okay. The NLRB says their rulings only apply to private employers. Now, Northwestern, of course, as we know, competes in, let's think, what do they compete in? The Big Ten, where all the schools are public. Except for Northwestern and USC.
Now, yeah.
They ruled against jurisdiction, arguing that one school having the ability to collectively bargain while others operate differently is a detriment to college sports. Now, it made their ruling easier because the contrary, Ken, my strong understanding is the Northwestern football players years ago did not vote in favor. That made it easier for the NLRB to rule. Okay? All the schools in the Ivy League are private. While Northwestern players receive athletic scholarships, Ivy League schools do not. Now, they get... Mm-hmm. There are ways to go about it. Yes. And the endowment at Dartmouth is not small.
Nope.
They said they could claim that we need to unionize to get better treatment in the form of athletic scholarships. That's what the Ivy League would argue. Okay. Experts say that's not a good way to start a sentence, because we're finding experts are really like throwing darts like the rest of us, but that's okay. You're like, oh, no, they're experts. Excuse me. In the last 10 years, how many times have experts been wrong?
Yeah,
you want a list? I mean, I could sit here and do a week and a half worth of shows just listing the times experts didn't get it right.
Right.
Okay? Now, do I respect that they put a lot of research in? Of course I do. Right? Experts say it is an ideal time for athletes to be deemed employees given the Supreme Court's Alston ruling. Really? Okay. Now, they say a democratically controlled White House and Senate would be important as well, but they don't have the House of Representatives. Okay? The 4-person board, for now, holds a Democratic majority because I think there's one open seat, and I think it's 3-1 right now. And let's not pretend that's not significant. It is significant. Joe Biden's presidential appointee is the one that they think can swing this whole thing. The question is the NLRB thinking differently today than in 2015? There are signs that they would treat this differently than they did Northwestern. Again, Northwestern gave them the out. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's the part that this is. Come on, you gotta like somehow figure out how to get into the story. All right, maybe they feel that constitutionally they can't put it. I have no idea. All right, so there are several avenues which athletes can be ruled employees, and again, the key case to me is the California case. Because it includes conferences and the NCAA. They are both private. The Big Ten is incorporated. Okay? Uh-huh. You'll hear me say it next week when I'm doing the NCAA, when I'm doing the Big Ten basketball tournament. Big Ten Conference Incorporated. Okay? They're incorporated. Okay? That's why people are like, why isn't it the Big 18, the whole thing? Okay? Because it's a corporate name. Yeah, I've said that once. I've said that 1,000 times for 30 years. Realize that numerically it makes no sense. I got it. Okay? But it's also a corporate name. There is a collective action suit out of Pennsylvania, Johnson versus the NCAA. And then here's the big one. Okay? Johnson versus the NCAA is going to be, I wouldn't pay too much attention to that. Okay? But this one in Los Angeles is pursuing unfair labor practices against USC, the Pac-12, and the NCAA as single and joint employers of FBS football players and Division I men's and women's basketball players. See, that's the one. Ramoga Huma said in a previous interview with Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports, by definition, college athletes are employees under labor law. They are skilled workers in their sport and are paid scholarships. They deserve the rights afforded to them under the labor laws like every other American. Okay, here's the part that does confuse me. If we're going back to Bear Bryant at Texas A&M and the Junction Boys, I'm a billion times behind what they're doing here. Because what he did with them was wrong.
Very wrong. Yeah. He
in every stretch of the imagination, wrong.
Completely. Yeah.
Right? Today, you can't even have two-a-days.
Yeah.
Okay, now, this is a pro example. It's a pro example. When Don Shula left the Baltimore Colts and became the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, he put them through 4-a-days. Now, a union comes in and restructures that. Money, I understand. So let's take the money part for the moment and put it aside. I'm around this all the time. Where are the mediocre working conditions?
Yeah.
Where are they? This is the part, and I'm not. These are not the players complaining. Please, okay.
Right.
These are okay.
They're not.
These are entities complaining on their behalf.
And for several years, the players could have been the ones to complain about several things, and didn't.
Exactly. But you practice once a day. You're guaranteed under the rules, a day off.
Yeah.
You're guaranteed that you're only supposed to be doing whatever. Now, you can do stuff on your own, but 20 hours a week. 20 hours a week. Right now, that's the rule, 20 hours, unless you're Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. He got caught for that, didn't he? Yeah, he did.
Yeah, just a bit. That's one of the things. There was something else. Something else he was struggling with too. It was found last year.
Okay.
But
my point is they did. They quote violated it, whatever.
Sure.
They got called on it. So the 20-hour thing is, you have to put in what the hours have to be. Okay. I can tell you they get great medical attention.
That's the one
not
where
good, great medical attention.
Yeah, when you said that, I was just baffling that part of it.
And I know I've said this before, but I'll go through it one more time. Think of all and again, the NIL stuff and getting and money. I have no problem with anybody getting what they can get. Please,
nope.
Okay, this has nothing to do with it. How many times have you heard me say, "Hey, I don't care. I'm all for whatever anybody
very
can
much
get."
for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
But, in life. But for the price of a scholarship, I'm not saying it's the only thing they should have. Again,
right.
I'm all for whatever they can get
sure.
in NIL. Okay. But because a scholarship is an electronic transfer, the family and the player never sees the money.
Right.
Because it's an electronic transfer done in an office that pays for the tuition, right, and everything. To all of you out there, I don't care whether you're an employee of Penn State and you paid 1/4, or you're somebody that lives in the state and you paid 50%, or you happen to be somebody out of state and you paid 100. Have taken out loans, have loans to pay back, right? And are probably still paying for loans that may have prevented you from getting a home earlier or whatever. How would you have loved to have had an athletic scholarship where you walk out, if you do everything right, debt-free?
Yeah.
Right? Debt-free. You don't owe anything on your academic side. So this is what you get for it. And you have to work hard every day. So the hard work is, you got to work hard every day. It's a grind. All right? And you're trying to balance academics with athletics. But you don't have to pay for tuition. You don't have to pay for your room. Room and board, get that. Food. You can go out and buy food if you want because you're already getting cost of attendance, which is, not the biggest number on the face of the earth, but it's not a small number either.
Yeah.
Right? I think if you're a Penn State athlete, I want to say it's like $10,000 total between, it's like $4,800, $4,900 or something like that per semester. I think that's Penn State's number. It's up in the fours. Right? But you have training table. Right? Despite what Shabazz Napier tried to tell you.
Yeah.
There's so many stories that I've written out there. I go, wow, what
I
are
don't
we
get
doing
it.
here?
I don't
get it. Take the time to research it.
I don't get it.
It's the same thing with what happened with the NCAA tournament a few years ago when they had to sit there and Indianapolis and San Antonio. Oh, the men got this, and of course, okay. Should things have been better for the women down in San Antonio? Yeah, but it wasn't the men's tournament's fault. They offered them.
They offered it to them.
They called the NBA. Yeah. They said, "How do you set this up?" And the women's tournament committee wouldn't do it. But nobody knows that.
No.
Nope. Why? Ask the question. Who made the decisions? I just get frustrated by that stuff.
That's ridiculous.
Okay?
I agree.
Right? But so you get your tuition's paid for. You come out debt free. Room, board taken care of. Books taken care of. right? So now, I mean, you have to bust your backside to keep earning that. But the payoff is at the end. Now, all right, so let's go to the next part. You're a basketball player. How much does it cost to rent Mike Rhodes or Danny Hurley for a year? You're a football player. How much does it cost to rent James Franklin for a year? How much does it cost to rent Joe Crispin to be your offensive coach for a year? How much does it cost if you're a running back to rent Jaywan Sider for a year? And Andy Koltanicki? How much does it cost to rent them? Right? How much does it cost to have at your disposal Dr. Wayne Sebastianelli and Dr. Greg Billy all year? How much does it cost to have Andy Mutnam, the trainer, right? Or Tessa Johns-Bostic, or in basketball, Justin Pomar, to be at your disposal as the trainer all year? How much would it cost to rent them? How much would it cost to rent the weight room? How much would it cost to rent the sports performance area? How much would it cost to rent the hot tub? How much would it cost to rent the cold tub? How much would it cost to rent Chuck Losey for a year? How much would it cost to rent Alvin Futrell for a year? How much would it cost to rent Greg Golden for a year as your strength and conditioning coaches? Like, on and on and on and on and on. Right? This is what you get for your scholarship. Individualized training. How much would it cost to rent the film room for a year? Right? Over and over and over again. Right? We just talked about the combine. Where do you think they got the tape to send you to the combine? Because you were out there playing for a university. You weren't out there playing, flag football in the IMs. Now, you have to bust your backside to earn all of that, okay? And student athletes work hard. They work hard every day. Some days better than others, but like anybody else. So they do. But all of that I just outlined, you get and don't have to pay for the moment you put your name on a signed letter of intent. You get all of that, right? Plus you get cost of attendance, okay? Plus you get NIL opportunities. So I'm not quite sure what the problem is with the working conditions at Dartmouth. Because they say there's certain things that they want. Well, what do they want? Okay? That's what I find interesting is, like, what do they want? And not only that, if I'm Dartmouth, I want better than 6-21. Don't you?
Oh, yeah. I would hope so.
I mean, I'm seriously.
There's no doubt.
Okay? If I'm Dartmouth, okay, I want better than 6-21, and I want better than and I also want better
attendance
than 675 fans per game. Okay? Which is what the average was going in. Now, maybe they surpassed that last night. That I don't know.
That I think is where you could even start. Hey, put some butts in seats and then we'll talk. That's absolutely where you start.
I mean, in other words, if you want to go about unionizing, right, which turns this into where you're telling us it's a business. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then let's talk about this from a business point of view.
Absolutely.
From a business point of view, how much money are you bringing in?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, you can't bring that up. Yes, you can.
Well, you certainly can if you're a business.
Yes, you can.
You're a business. You need to operate in the green and not the red. I mean, there's no doubt you can bring that up.
I mean, you're darn right you can bring that up. And the reason you can bring that up is, all right, You want to be treated like the big guys. Yeah. Okay? Yeah, Harvard's in here. The average went up because they drew 809 last night. So they're up to 686 per game. On the road, it's 28-18. But 686 per game. All right? So you want to unionize. Okay. Guess what? This section of the Service Employees Union is an underperforming section of the union. Underperforming. At mid-season, can I then file with the union that I want that employee terminated? You can't have it all. And that's something that when you look at this, I'm not sitting there threatening people, of course not. But I'm looking over here. I'm like, here's a player that, played in. We will not use names.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we will not use names. This player played in 24 games, started 11. Okay, shot 33% from the field, 25% in threes, 81% at the line, averaged 2.4 points and 3 rebounds a game. Now, I know nothing about this player, zero, other than the base stats. Is that somebody you look at and say, you're really not helping?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, they were 6 and 7 at home, so it's like
there it is.
I mean, that's 600.
That hostile environment of 675 fans.
I mean, they drew for the
season
in 13 games. They drew 8,914. Penn State sold tickets of over 12,000 for the Minnesota game on that Saturday afternoon. So they 8,914. Okay, so 8,914. Those are tickets sold, right? So, just for a couple laughs here, and only for a couple laughs. All right. What was it? What did I say? 8,914.
Yep.
Okay. Let's just see how many games on tickets sold that Penn State cracked that number on individual games. Now, I realize it's a different story. It's Ivy League versus the Big Ten, of course. You know, I mean, Zach Edey and Purdue aren't coming into town. You know, hey, let's go to Hanover and play a game. I don't think so. But that, you know, again, we want this, this, and this. Okay, great. I'm glad you want this, this, and this. But remember, if you want to treat this like you are employees, that means we're treating it like a business. Right? I can't average 684 fans per game. Okay? 684 fans per game. I can't afford you in a business world. Penn State this year at home went over 8,914. 1, 2. That was at the Plestra. 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times at home this year. Okay. That's just in a game.
A game, yeah.
Okay. Look, it's just they don't have the TV contract either. I mean, they have a TV contract. I mean, the Ivy League does. They have a TV contract, and I think mostly their games are on ESPNU, I believe. But they still have it. And I'm not arguing pro or con on this. I'm not. I'm just pointing out the pitfalls of it. You always have to take into account, oh, they're going to unionize. This is great. There are always unintended consequences.
Mm-hmm.
What are they? Eh? We're unionized. We're 6-21. We're averaging 684 a game. Guess what? I can't afford you. You're in the NBA. Okay. You're in the NBA. Guess what? You have a players' association. They can still cut you and release you.
Mm-hmm.
And they do. They can trade you. And they do. Russell Wilson was a Denver Bronco at the beginning of the week. On March 13th, Russell Wilson will no longer be a Denver Bronco. And he's a member of the union.
Oh, yeah. And that's a prime example that money isn't everything, too. They're taking a significant cap hit to trade him.
$85 million.
Yeah.
Well, they're not trading him. They're releasing him outright.
Releasing him out. I think they're giving him permission to speak to other teams first to see if they can move him, then releasing him outright. Yep. Nobody's going to give up anything.
Nobody's going to trade for him.
Exactly. Who's going to give up anything when you know you have the chance to get him on the open market?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Players get cut all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. In the pros that have a union.
Yeah.
What, because you're 18 to 22 years old, you can't be cut? Who's to say?
Yeah. I'm
just saying, here are the unintended consequences of the decision. Let's talk about that. It's like, you got to talk about this.
Yeah.
In other words, we're unionized. We're all getting money. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Hold on over here in the back. It does bring with it some other elements.
Sure does.
I mean, have union employees ever been let go at Penn State University? Of course they have. I've seen it firsthand at Channel 3. They may have to negotiate with the union to do it, but guess what? It happens. And I'm talking like, I've been over there 40 some odd years.
Sure.
Right? Has it ever happened? Sure it has. Now, this is a public institution, but they still have unions to deal with. I think the union at Channel 3 is the Teamsters.
Yes.
In the union, the Teamsters have been great for the audio personnel up there. They've been great for them. But it doesn't mean that you're totally protected all the time.
Nope.
And union is great in the pros, right? For them, they negotiate and so forth. And by the way, what's to keep? Right now, here's the next part. What is to keep Dartmouth basketball now from unionizing, and then they don't come to an agreement and going on strike? Okay. Now, by going on strike, they could, which they could. You unionize, you can go on strike. But what do you do to the perception of the product the second you do that? And don't tell me how everybody's always bounced back. Major League Baseball took
many, many years. Took a home run race. It's significant,
to bounce back.
And I would even make the argument they still haven't bounced back in a lot of places.
1994, before the lockout.
30 years ago, and I'm still not sure they're the same.
The Dodgers averaged 32,000 season ticket holders.
Yep.
You want to know what the Dodgers season ticket holder number was a year ago? Let's see what kind of impact Shohei Ohtani has. But you know what they averaged last year? 8,000.
And they're still
season tickets.
They're still a prominent franchise before Ohtani even got there. You're talking about probably one of the top three in the game in bets.
I'm saying that number may go up.
Yeah.
But it was 32,000 in 94. It was 8,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And these ballparks are, and look, April and May, people are still in school. I understand it. But, these ballparks are, come to 11 games for $100. That wasn't happening in 1994.
No.
It really, and prior to 1994. Yeah. So I make the argument that I'm not so sure they've bounced back yet at all. And that's 30 years ago.
That these are all of the unintended consequences of this that have to at least be thought about.
Yeah.
Okay? The players, as you and I, can go on strike.
Sure.
All right. Now, if they were to go on strike now, you'd be looking around and go, fine, we don't need you to see
exactly.
it. We'll get 13 other people in here from the student body. We'll be fine. We'll lose every game, but, hey, here, you go up against Edie.
Yeah.
It's like, dang.
Literally.
Right? Right? But we're going to, in the Ivy League, we're going to strike. Okay, and
nobody's going to care.
Right? And nobody is going to care.
No.
Now, if the NCAA tournament comes up and they want to strike, you want to set the tournament back in terms of perception? Maybe a decade?
And I think you easily can make the argument that is the second biggest sporting event. Probably.
After the 49ers' annual loss in the Super Bowl?
After the 49ers' annual loss in the Super Bowl, and then you had the Final Four, yeah?
I mean, there's certain things like, like Mardi Gras, 49ers lose.
Tom Brady will get to the Super Bowl no matter how old he is.
And the Daytona 500. There you go.
Daytona 500 will rain out and be on Monday every year.
Absolutely. It's great. But, okay. And then the other part is, okay, you want your employees.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like how you're doing your job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And guess what? You no longer work here. I don't need you.
Yeah.
I'm saying these
things can happen.
I'm only saying that when you sit down to go through all these scenarios, there are always unintended consequences. So these are some of the unintended consequences, which, they voted 13-2. So two of them thought, hey, I'm at Dartmouth. I got a pretty good deal. That was the thing at Northwestern. I get privately, the players are saying, we got a pretty good deal here. All right. And my point about what the scholarship brings up with it is you already have started out with a basic, pretty good deal. Now, I realize there are a lot of families where the extra money helps. And I'll never forget Pell Grants. I'd say about between 30 and 40% of Penn State football players have Pell Grants. So, let's just say about a third.
Sure.
All right. Which is money handed to them. I'll never forget talking to Adrian Amos. Adrian got a Pell Grant. Is it Pell Grant or bowl money or whatever? It was one of the two, and I think it was both. He took his money and sent it home. He didn't keep it. He took the money he got from it and he sent it home. His family needed it. Now, fortunately, today is with the Houston Texans. He's had a really terrific NFL career between the Bears, the Packers, the Jets, and the Texans.
Phenomenal NFL career.
Right. So his family's been fine. In fact, his sister is one of the photographers over at football. She's terrific. All right. But I remember talking to him one day because I had a nice sit-down one day in the locker room with some of the players about some of these issues because I wanted to hear what they had to say. It just came up in conversation. Right. And for me, it was an education listening to them, to what they were doing. Because there are times of the year you don't have training table and things like that. So, when you don't have training table, you're out there going, hey, let's get some ramen noodles. Right? And, obviously you live on sirloin. But, but it's... and so they were talking to me about, hey, I get the money, I send it home. We were able to get something for travel on the bowl. I'll drive. This back then, I'll drive. I'd take the extra, send it home. Because sometimes that's the circumstance. So we always have to understand all the various circumstances that the players come from. Not everybody led the affluent life such as you did.
That's right.
Where the paper route was just chump change to you.
That's right. I just did it for fun.
See, it's about time you admitted it.
Just did it for fun.
And you just enjoyed taunting the little dog patches.
Well, him and a few others. He was the only one.
He was
the only one who took offense.
Oh, a few others. Oh.
No, nobody chased me like him, though. He chased me almost every day.
Some of us consider that dog to be heroic. Interviews tomorrow. on the show. We'll have that sit down. One of them will be Cale Sanderson, the Big Ten Wrestling Championship coming up. And, and then you and I will be back on Friday, in which you'll just sit there and taunt me.
That's right. And get flagged for it, I'll tell you.
I speak for America. Right? I mean, you should hear the number of comments about your haircut.
I can't believe they review my taunts. It's like a league here. They find me. It's not.
Okay, everybody in the state is impressed by your haircut.
That's
right. The question we had was, when was the last one?
It's been a couple months.
Months? We think it's 6.
It probably is about. Yeah, it's about a biannual haircut. That's probably about right.
Oh.
It's like when it gets long enough, you're thinking.
You know what you need? You need to unionize.
That's right.